Daf Yomi, Tractate 103b, top of the page. Actually, the last few words of the previous Amud were Boy Rav Yirmiyah. Rav Yirmiyah raises a dilemma. Top of 103b, Kashir Mahu, Kashura Mahu, It's Dedinin Mahu, Derech Akalaton Mahu, Teku. If the rocks are scattered throughout the greater part of the field but are arranged like a ring, what is the halacha? If the rocks stand in a row, what is the halacha? If the rocks form an angle, what is the halacha? If they are arranged in the shape of a crooked path, what is the halacha? The Gemara states, all these dilemmas shall stand unresolved. Okay. What does he have to do anyway? They're scattered throughout the field. I'm not sure. Okay, anyway. Tana im hayasala yichidi afilu kol shu'em nimdad ima im haya samuch lemetzer afilu kol shu'em nimdad ima. A sage taught in Braita, Tana, if there was a solitary rock on the outskirts of the field, even if it is not of a minimal size, it is not measured together with the rest of the field. And further, if that rock is adjacent to the field's border, even if it is of a minimal size, it is not measured together with the rest of the field. Boy, Rav Papa asked, Mufsak afar ben taim mahu teku. Boy, Rashi afar milmata bitsun lamala afar milmala bitsun lamata mahu teku. Wow, there's a bunch of tekus here. Rav Papa raised the dilemma: if an earth intervenes between a rock and the border of the field so that the rock does not actually touch the border, what is the halacha? The Gemara states this dilemma shall stand unresolved. Rav Ashi raises another dilemma: if there was a layer of earth below and a rock above, or earth above and rock below, what is the halacha? The Gemara says this dilemma as well shall stand unresolved. And now we are starting a new Mishnah, base core, for Animocher Lach, Mida Bechevel, Piches, Kol Shuhu Yinake, Hoster Kol Shuhu Yachazir, V'im Amar Hein Chaser Hein Yaser, Afilo Piches Rova Lisa'a, Yehoshua Rova Lisa'a Higio, Yoser Mikanya Aseh Heshbon. The Mishnah says, if one says to another, I'm selling you a plot of earth the size of a beit core measured precisely with a rope, and he gave him even the slightest amount less than what was stipulated, the seller must deduct the difference from the purchase price of the field and return money to the buyer. If he gave him even the slightest amount more than what was stipulated, the buyer must return the difference to the seller. And if the seller said to the buyer that he is selling him a beit core of land, more or less, then even if he gave him a quarter kav per sa'ah less than what was stipulated, or he gave him a quarter kav per sa'ah more than what was stipulated, meaning he gave him 1/24 more or less than what was required, it is his. The sale is valid, since the seller told the buyer in advance that he was not committing himself to precise measurements. If the difference is greater than that amount, he must make a calculation, and the party that suffered a loss must be compensated. Mahu machzir lo ma'os. If the buyer received too much land so that he must now compensate the seller, what does he return to him? He returns money, meaning he pays the seller for the surplus land. B'imratza machzir lo karka, v'lama amna machzir lo ma'os liapos kocho shel mochar. She'im shi'er basodeh beis tisha kavin, ubagina beis chatzi kav, uchedevere Rabbi Akiva beis roiva, Machzir lo es hakarka, v'lo es harova bilvad, hu machzir ela es kol hamosar. If the buyer receives too much land, so that he must now compensate the seller, what does he return to him? He returns money. Pays the seller for the surplus land. And if the seller so wishes, the buyer returns the surplus land to him. Why then did the sages say that he returns money to him? They said this in order to enhance the power of the seller and enable him to demand payment for the surplus land rather than accept its return, as if the surplus in the field was an area required for sowing 9 kav of seed, and in a garden an area required for sowing a half a kav of seed, or, according to the statement of Rabbi Akiva, an area requiring for sowing a quarter kav of seed, C11a. The buyer must return the land itself to the seller, and the seller cannot demand payment in money. And if the surplus is greater than a quarter kav per sa'ah, it is not only the quarter kav that he returns, rather, he returns all of the debts of the surplus. Since he is already required to make a refund, the refund must be made in the precise amount. The Gemara states, that was the Mishnah. The Gemara now says, Ibaylahu Beis Kor Sitama Mai Tashima Beis Kor Afarni Mocher Lach Mida V'Chevel. The Mishnah considers 2 cases of selling a Beit Kor of land. First, where the seller said that he is selling a Beit Kor measured precisely with a rope, in which case a refund must be made, no matter how small the deviation. And second, where the seller said that he is selling a Beit Kor more or less, in which case the sale is valid as long as the deviation is no more than a quarter kav per sa'ah. In connection with these cases, a dilemma was raised before the sages. If one says he is selling a Beit Kor of land, and he said this without any further specification, what is the halacha? The Gemara suggests, come in here, a solution from what was taught in the Mishnah. If one says to another, I am selling you a plot of earth the size of a Beit Kor, measured precisely with a rope,